Hello and welcome to the Rhythm Changes podcast. I'm your host, Will Chernoff. My second album, Maybe Eventually, is available now in a specific way on my own website, chernoffmusic.com. You can order a CD there. You can also get it on Bandcamp. There's no streaming for this album right now. That's because it's a special project. It means a lot to me. It marks the anniversary of my sobriety when I was making it. It's a love letter to my hometown, New Westminster. So it's a personal thing for me, and I want to share it with you in a personal way. That's why I've set it up that way for now. By purchasing a copy of this album, you'll support not only this podcast, but everything I do, really. And I'll thank you by writing a nice little note when I mail it to you after you order it. So go to chernoffmusic.com and pick up a copy of my new second album, Maybe Eventually, featuring Francis Henson on the guitar, myself on bass, and Carson Tuoro on the drums. Thank you. All right. Well, one of the things I've been doing is an Instagram stories thing where I try and get people to guess guests. And many people are right. I try and make it as easy as possible because I like it when a lot of people get it right. But I've also come up with some guest suggestions through this. And this is somebody who's been guessed incorrectly until now a few times. And so it's my great pleasure to finally do an episode with him. I also got to know him a little bit better because I haven't really until now. It's all good fun. And here we go. That's up next. Our guest today is a keyboard player. He is a friend of many of my friends, but somebody I feel like I don't know as well yet. So I'm stoked to have him here for a conversation at our downtown Vancouver location. He played, as of when we're recording this, last night with Meredith Louise, and he's playing several more times coming up. His name actually appears on the gig list more than I would have expected. So please welcome to the Rhythm Changes podcast, Justin Juan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Just a little tired from last night, but yeah, I'm doing good.
How was last night? I intended to go, so I'm lucky I get to hear about it right now a little bit from you. How'd it go?
It was good. It was really nice because it was an early show and it wasn't like, normally I play like the late show and, I get home at like 2 a.m. and it's like, oh, come on. So I did get home like pretty early actually. And the actual music was really fun to play because I feel like we got to the point with the band where we could play the music like super comfortably. So after each set, we're all looking at each other like, yeah, that felt really good. And everyone was really stoked about it. So yeah, it was great.
So this is Meredith Louise, songwriter, vocalist, and then the band is you. And at this gig, Guilt & Co. early show, it was Marcus Ramzik on bass and Brennan Buglioni on drums?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then normally Maddie Elkins is usually with us, but it was just me yesterday.
That's right. Yeah. So that band, I mean, I've heard it once at Guilt as well. I know that you've done some recordings that haven't been released yet or so that's coming up. Like you're on Meredith's next recording project.
Yeah. So I think she has a new EP coming out sometime this year. I heard a little bit and it sounded really good. So yeah, I'm stoked about that.
How does somebody like you get onto that project? That's a classic example of like a next step outside of the CapU jazz bubble project that somebody gets in. Do you remember when you got the first message or when you got brought on board?
Right. So I feel like almost like 60% of my work is just like, keyboardists in the city being too busy and then me having a free schedule. So with Meredith, I think it was Jancis who actually gave me that gig.
Oh, cool.
I think last year. And then, ever since then, I guess he's more busy with teaching and he's been actually giving me a lot of gigs and like, hey, can you do this for me? So I've been kind of subbing in and filling his role, I guess. So yeah.
Okay, I didn't know it was him. Oh, that's a fun connection. Yeah.
Shout out
happens.
Jancis, yeah.
That's how people get into it is people kind of max out and then they pass on incoming or inbound opportunities to the next group of people, right? Once they get to know who you are.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's really nice because I feel like a lot of times people ask me to sub for them, but I haven't even met them. Like Dean, for example, like I think he's asked me to sub for him so many times and I still haven't met him.
Okay.
Which is really funny because I feel like, I never see keyboardists or pianists ever because, like there's never two keyboardists in like a gig usually.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it's pretty cool that, they hear these things about me and can trust that I could sub for them, even though like I've never even met them.
Huh. That's funny that you haven't met him yet. It's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah.
I saw today that we're talking the main show at Guilt & Co. now. Tonight, Star Captains are playing.
Right.
I know you've played with Star Captains
Mhm.
a few times. I don't know if you're on this gig that's tonight at the time of recording
Yeah.
this. Are you?
I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
But
yeah.
oh my gosh, I could talk so much, but I could yap all day about Star Captains.
I'll set you up a little bit. I would love to hear you
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
your Star Captain story. So 10 years ago now, when I was in my late teens,
Mhm.
I played with Andrew and Matt Skipasts,
Oh,
guitarist and
yeah,
drummer,
yeah.
at their family's backyard.
Mhm.
And we did this big summer backyard concert. And we basically opened for, they have those South Surrey connections.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jim Black and the Star Captains.
Yeah.
And so they played the main set on this like stage
no
that they
way.
built in their backyard.
Yeah.
And we played a jazz guitar trio set before them. And that was my
That's sick.
introduction to the band 10 years ago. So what's your Star Captain story?
I mean, there's a lot. Well, I guess I could start off with Jim Black. He was actually my student band teacher when I was in high school. So this is around grade 12, I think. Yeah, like I think he was being a student band teacher for jazz band. So he would come in, and I at first like I didn't really think much. I was like, oh, cool, like a student teacher. But then after school, I would kind of hang out in the band room and, just jam with my other friends. And he would actually stick around and he would be like, hey, check out this cool music. And he introduced me to actually a lot of great music. And he introduced me to Ableton, actually.
Oh, okay.
And he has like the Van City Ableton like hookups. So he actually gave me a copy of Ableton. And at the time, I remember I was like, man, like what's this Ableton thing? Like I want Logic, because I had no idea what Ableton was. And he set me up for producing, I guess. So I've been making beats ever since. And he introduced me to Jay Dilla. So his music, and just like I guess kind of introducing me to the things that I should know. So it was pretty great. And he's been a great kind of mentor. And he eventually asked me to play in his band Star Captains. I think like maybe 2 years ago was the first time ish, or maybe last year. And whenever they want, I'm just kind of their like auxiliary keyboardist. So I'm doing all like the synth solos and playing pads, and it's a really good vibe. They're really like family oriented, so it's really nice because they're all super friendly and super great. And everyone there, I always say this to Jim, or I call him Mr. Black, but I always tell him that you have like the most, you have like the healthiest friend group alive, because like it's always good vibes. I think one of our rehearsals once, we had like we did a like 3-hour rehearsal, and we just stayed at the studio for like another 4 hours, and it was like 2 a.m. and everyone was just having a good time, and no one wanted to leave. So that kind of just shows how like awesome they are.
Wow. So who's usually in the band when you play with them?
It's usually Neray, so she's the vocalist, Max. But there are times when Max is unavailable, so usually I like step in for him.
That's Max Sapersky on keys, right?
Yeah, Max Sapersky. And usually Dan Child is kind of there sometimes, and he does like Ableton stuff.
Okay.
And Gavin Youngash on guitar. I actually did my very first gig with Gavin. Fun fact. And Jim Black on guitar as well.
You mean like your personal first like real gig ever included him?
Mm-hmm.
Where was it?
It was just some random like it was like a wedding thing, but it was more like a picnic kind of outdoorsy thing. This is June of 2020, I believe. And I remember I didn't know anything yet, so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to learn all these tunes. So I downloaded iReal Pro for the first time. And then I was like, how do I use this app? And I still remember like a lot of the tunes we played. And it was a very great first gig. I remember I overdressed. And then he was like, oh, why are you wearing like a turtleneck? It's so hot outside. So there's that. And on bass, it's usually, I mean, like, I guess they like to say that there's a bigger Star Captains family, so people could kind of sub in and out. But usually it's Derek DiFilippo on bass, and I think drums nowadays it's usually Paul Clark.
Yeah, that makes sense. More of a collective, of musicians around Jim and Neray. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's a fun connection that you got pulled into in a very real way, you know, just
Yeah.
of spending time with Jim at what's your you went to high school in Surrey, right?
Guilford Park, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Guilford Park, the band teacher there. So when
Yeah.
I was at New Westminster Secondary School, there was this guy who came in to do his practicum, and his name was Jonathan Sykes.
My boy, yeah.
And now he is the band teacher at that school, and he was your band teacher.
Mhm.
So what can you tell me about your Jonathan Sykes story?
Oh man. I mean, there's also a lot. Man, that's a great topic. I guess I could start with grade 10. So I just dropped out of band actually because our old band teacher left, and all my friends at the time all like kind of mass dropped out because we didn't know what to expect of the new teacher.
Uh-huh.
But I would still kind of hang out in the band room, and I was playing piano one day, and I guess I think he approached me and he heard me, and he was like, "Hey, you want to be in a choir band?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." You
Like
know?
a rhythm section
Yeah.
for vocal jazz? Okay.
It wasn't even. It was just like the normal choir.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't in band in grade 10, but you know, I'd still have rehearsals, and he would kind of run it, and it was a good opportunity to kind of get to know Mr. Sykes, and yeah, he introduced me to a lot of good music. He introduced me to Daniel Caesar actually.
Yeah, that checks out.
I remember all my like friends and even my siblings were all listening to Daniel Caesar at the time. I think it's like 2017, 2018. And I was like, like whenever someone was like mainstream or in high school, when everyone was listening to someone, I would like refuse to listen to them.
Hipster Justin. All right,
Yeah.
let's
But
go.
you know, I gave Daniel Caesar a chance because we actually played one of his songs in the choir.
Oh,
So then I guess, yeah, like that was a start, just playing in that choir band. And then eventually he was like, "Hey, I'm starting a jazz band next year. You want to be in it?" And I was like, maybe, probably. And then I ended up being in our school's first jazz band the next year. So that was in the start of grade 11.
mhm.
And that was the start of my jazz journey.
Yeah, and you were the keyboard player. It's an
Mhm.
interesting spot to be when you're developing, because it's not like you're a trumpet player or a trombone player. It's
Mhm.
like you would have more of a, maybe you'd feel like you have more of a direct connection to your band teacher because you're in the
Exactly.
keys chair. Or I mean, I could feel that way as a bass player. A drummer could feel that way too, more so than if you're a horn player.
Yeah.
You know? So you probably got to know him pretty fast. It seemed, and because he reached out to you, you know, he was
Yeah,
interested in
exactly.
connecting with you as
Exactly.
well.
Yeah. And I think he really did change like my perspective on music, you know, because before it was more like, oh, I took music because I like I had to, or oh, it was just for school. But you know, he was introducing me to music like that I actually enjoy it, or like, you know, that we don't have to learn in band. He would just introduce me to like cool music for the sake of introducing me to cool music. So he showed me like Snarky Puppy and, you know, everyone, like all, probably Jacob Collier, honestly. And, you know, he'd just be like, "Hey, come to my office. I want to show you something." Spend like an hour showing me like, I don't know, Snarky Puppy or something. I'm like, "I gotta go home." He's like, no, stay longer. And yeah, he just introduced me to a lot of good music, and yeah, set me up for life, honestly.
Nice. Yeah, he did similar things to us too. Definitely showed us Snarky Puppy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else were you listening to and discovering that time? Doesn't have to be from him, but what are other artists or things that
Mhm.
got you inspired at that time period?
I guess at the start of grade 10, or it was the second semester of grade 10, that's when I first downloaded Spotify.
Okay.
And I remember asking one of my classmates in French class. I remember the day. I was like, "Hey, who should I listen to?" And you know, all these like artists were pretty similar to like Daniel Caesar, but the first artist I started listening to a lot was this R&B singer named Mac Ayres.
Okay.
So I went really deep with his music, and yeah, he almost like um just having his songs on my Spotify playlist kind of fed the algorithm to, you know, introduce me to more artists. So like who else, like Daniel Caesar, Bruno Major, that kind of, you know, R&Bs.
R&B.
So I was listening to more of that stuff rather than jazz um around grade 10, and then grade 11 hit, and then jazz band came around. Then I was like, "Oh, maybe I should listen to jazz." So I started listening to a little bit of Bill Evans, a bit of Oscar Peterson. But I like didn't really listen to too much jazz because I think I was introduced to like so much different kinds of music. So it was really all over the place of what I was listening to. But I'd say it was mainly like R&B.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
that still seems like a home base for you. You know, we talked about playing with Meredith, you know, playing with Star Captains. That's an area where you're still enjoying.
Yeah, and I think I'm still trying to like get better at it because there's so much out there. I think a big, I guess, thing I'm trying to do now is listen to 90s R&B, because I feel like all the R&B that I've listened to was kind of from the pickup jazz era in like 2017 and 2018, you know?
Okay. Can you explain that? Can I make you explain that to somebody who's either too old or too young to understand? Because maybe I am even in the too old bucket, but I mean, I understand what you mean. But can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I guess it was a specific sound of like Instagram guitarists that played like descending minor like 9 chords on Instagram, and I guess like everyone was. It was like it was a certain sound. Tom Misch is like a perfect example of this like pickup jazz sound, and I think it's great. Like I think a lot of people kind of make fun of it now, but yeah, like Tom Misch, like Bruno Major, like D'Angelo, that kind of sound was really popular in like LA, I think in particular, especially with this like account called Pickup Jazz, you know,
which lent the name to the trend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a trend. Yeah. So, yeah, I was really into that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, even if it's a trend and it comes and goes, like you'll have lasting kind of things that you take away from it, right? And that you can bring into everything else. So
yeah.
It'd still be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember, so I would listen to like that kind of music. So music from 2017 to 2018. And I remember when I first listened to D'Angelo, I'm pretty sure Mr. Black, Jim, he introduced it to me as well. And I remember like, you know, kind of pointing out the similarities, like, oh my gosh, why does Tom Misch sound like D'Angelo? And I didn't realize like, oh shoot, he's like the guy, you know, who like kind of pioneered that music. So that was a big, you know, mind-blowing moment for me.
I was going to say, it's funny that D'Angelo showed up in the first like headline batch of artists that you would associate the pickup jazz trend thing with, because D'Angelo is a full generation before those other people that you mentioned. So it's interesting how strong that influence was with like his biggest album coming out in 2000 or whatever it was, and featuring like Roy Hargrove and all these other people on it. Yeah, his influence was so strong. And I mean, he did put out the 2015 album, the Black Messiah album, that kind of revitalized the talk around him, but his influence lasted so strongly all the way till that Instagram video era. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that Instagram video era. I was honestly, I think that like era kind of not just on Instagram, but even YouTube. I was having a conversation the other day with one of my friends, and we were talking about how like we kind of like grew up, or like when we were all starting jazz, like starting to learn how to play jazz, that's when like the YouTube algorithm really started to pick up with like jazz YouTube content. So like transcription videos started popping up around that time. And like even like jazz memes, like I feel like they became a bit more mainstream around that time.
Yes.
So it was a really interesting, I guess, time for me to learn jazz, because I don't know, like my YouTube like feed would just be full of like Jesus Molina videos and me being like, oh my gosh, I gotta learn this. And like grade 11 or grade 12. Yeah.
Yeah. But it sounds like this is like a positive force for you. This is a lot of inspiration that kind of showed up for you, and you were able to discover it through these platforms. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it was great at, I guess, like igniting that like passion for me. The YouTube algorithm. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear that. Sometimes people have a lot of struggles with, you know, what kind of content is coming at them and how they deal with it. So there's always a lot of positive and negative outcomes that could happen out there. So it's good to find the positive ones and talk about them too, to remind ourselves that that's still possible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So how did you go from there into the CapU world? How did you make the decision to jump there after you kind of got inspired by John at your high school and then dug into all this music? Then how do you decide, okay, I'm going to go study this?
I think it was when I played for, what was it, the Surrey Jazz Festival junior/senior rep band, and I met Nick Wise and Harmeet.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was talking to Nick, and he might have been the one, it might have been him or this guitarist named Aiden. At the time, yeah, I think it was one of them who told me about the program because it was, yeah, it might have been Aiden actually. He was this guitarist in the band who was telling me about the program and was telling me, oh man, like you should, do the program with me, you're pretty good. And I was like, yeah, maybe we'll see. Like I think at this point in time, so this was grade 11, I wasn't sure what I wanted to pursue. I just did music because I thought it was fun, but I didn't think that you could actually make a career out of it. And I think that kind of lingered into grade 12 where I still didn't know what to do. But then around this time, I actually had this trio in high school called the Off Time Trio. It's with Tim Park, he's like the bassist, and Bliss Park, who's a drummer. And we would, rehearse every week. And also, yeah, Jim would, he would watch us and kind of stay after school in the band room with us while we practiced, which was nice. And I guess through that, and also remembering about the CAP program that my friend Aiden told me about, I was like, maybe I should just apply. So then I applied. And then that was the only school I applied to.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I got in and yeah.
There's that connection with Harmeet. That's cool. Yeah, because my discussion with her was still relatively recent. And we were all in the same room together like in early April because Harmeet and Atessa and the Surrey Jazz Nights thing, they did that Surrey Slam Jam showcase, and they brought it to the community center, the Guildford Rec Center, a bunch of student bands. And you came because you brought a student who you thought would benefit from being there. Is that right?
Yeah. His name is Jose, and I think he goes to Holy Cross, and he's in grade 11. Super talented kid, and I think I met him through Michelle S. Escudero.
We'll talk about. You've played in all of her bands.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think he just wants. I could see that he wanted to play. So when I found out about the Surrey Jazz Nights in general, I just sent him the page like, "Hey, check this out. You're in Surrey. You like jazz." And then I told him to go, and then I wanted support, so then I went as well, and it was cool vibes.
And you hopped on the drum set.
Yeah, I dabble. Yeah, still trying to get better, but yeah, from time to time, I like to play drums.
Yeah, it sounded good.
More like pocket stuff, but yeah.
That was great that you kind of carried a torch a little bit by bringing him in there. I appreciated that.
I strongly believe in non-monetary mentorship because, someone like Jim Black and like John Sykes in my life, really introduced that idea to me, and just sharing music and, helping someone out just for the sake of helping them, I think is really important.
Yeah. So then you show up at CapU. Now there's another person that I'm personally connected with that I'm going to throw at you. I used to live a couple blocks away from a guy named Clayton Poon.
Yeah, my boy.
And he mentioned you on his episode of this show.
Oh yeah.
So did you meet him at Cap, or had you already met him?
So I believe our audition was in February of 2020. This was right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I got lucky. I actually met a couple. Actually, all the people I met that day, I'm still very close with, and I think I remain the closest with them out of everyone in the program. So that I went to the audition with Tim Park, who's a bassist, Julian Ferrer. I think he auditioned, but I
went to McGill. Yeah.
And I met Isabel Leong I think she was the first person I met. She was there like an hour early, and I was there like an hour early too. I was like, "Hey, you here for the audition?" She's like, "Yep."
Well, you're coming from Surrey to North Vancouver, right? You got to leave the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I met her, and then I met Clayton as well. And then I remember we all jammed. Like we all met up. We did our theory exam, and then we all found time to jam and playing Autumn Leaves in one of the practice rooms. It was a good vibe. Julian was playing like brushes on like a textbook. We're all super crammed, and it was really exciting at the time because I was like, oh my gosh, like meeting all these musicians.
Where did they all come from?
Yeah, right. And just seeing so many people, I guess, interested in jazz. I was like, whoa, I thought it was just me. So yeah.
And then he became one of your good friends as you got into Cap. You were in the same cohort?
Yeah, exactly. And we pretty much had like every class together. Same with like Isabel.
Yeah.
And I think that he's been a great help with me in the program academically speaking, because
Okay.
you know, he's really on top of things, and I'm on top of things too, but he's kind of like my safety net for a lot of like the assignments. I'd be like, hey man, what's for homework, or yo, what you get on this, you know. So yeah, he's a great friend.
Now, one of the things he said as soon as he mentioned your name on his episode was he said you're a good cook.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I do cook actually. I was like kind of considering going to culinary, but I'm like, I don't like the hours of being a chef, and it's really like, you know, taxing physically. But yeah, I do like to cook from time to time, but it's harder now because I'm like never at home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say you don't like the hours because like you're talking about how you're out late all this time and it seems like you don't mind, but I think I know what you
Yeah.
mean because you mean like the long hours.
Long
like it's
hours.
not like if you're playing, you know, you're showing up in the evening and you're playing through the evening. You're not there
Mhm.
all day. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. And I guess another thing too, I think it's really silly, but I think one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, I don't want to go into culinary, because I was like, I don't want to wash dishes. So yeah, I think I actually had a lot of different ideas going in my mind around that time, like culinary, psychology, I think graphic design, and music were like my main four. I was like, you know, and I decided on music.
And were you always wanting to stay here?
Yes, I was definitely not ready to,
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
travel across the country at like 17. I was really considering going to McGill, and even in first year considering switching, because, you know, all my friends are at McGill and it just seemed like a great place too. But I think I made the right choice in staying in Vancouver.
Yeah. Is there you play several styles of music and we've talked about a lot of them
Mhm.
already. Are there certain styles or genres that you feel like, oh, I don't know anything about that at all yet, or I haven't gone there, or maybe even you're not interested in going there? Like, are there any kind of
Right.
genre areas or buckets that you haven't gone to at all yet?
I guess country.
Okay, yeah.
That's like I know it's a big thing here. But yeah, like I remember talking to someone and they just kept throwing like these names at me, and I didn't know any of those names, and I was just like pretending like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
Like famous artists or
yeah,
local
famous
famous
artists.
artists.
And then
yeah.
I was like checking it out after, and I was like listening to it, and I was like, man, this is great.
Okay.
Like I never thought I'd say that. Like, but yeah, I still need to, I guess, like I want to listen to more country, I think, eventually. Um what else? I guess like classical piano, or just the classical music realm. I always like hated it growing up because I did classical piano,
Yeah.
did the RCM program. And so I really resented it and, you know, just didn't want to associate it with it. If there's like a reading gig, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. But I think in second year in my, or third year, second year in my history class, we were learning a bit more about like, you know, classical music and classical Western European music. And I was, you know, listening to it like outside of class, and I was like, man, this is pretty good.
Okay.
So I think I do want to get better at like playing that kind of music.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So it sounds like there isn't really anything that you would like refuse to listen to or refuse to play. It's just things that you haven't found the right kind of hook up with yet.
Yeah, I guess I'm really open to a lot of things nowadays. I guess that kind of just shows some sense of maturity, because before I kind of used to hate pop music. You know, I was like such a snobby little like pop music, you know. But now I'm like super cool with it, like listening to like Beyonce or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you continued to also, like you're talking about how you were introduced to Ableton, like at the beginning, do you do your own kind of production for fun and things like that as well? Do you do it for work with other people maybe? Like, do you continue to do that too? Or is it really about being an instrumentalist?
I guess there's a lot I could talk about that. So, yeah, I do still try to produce. I try to make more like instrumental beats.
Yeah.
I eventually want to release something. So this year I'm just trying to, you know, make as much stuff and then see out of the sea of things that I make, find something that I like. And, you know, just trying to get better too and develop my sound with producing, because I think like Ableton in itself is like its own instrument I'm trying to learn. So I have like a lot of good people in my life that, you know, been trying to help me and, you know, teach me stuff about Ableton and just about producing. So like, I have a friend named Matt Young who's been kind of my Ableton guru recently. We were actually working on something, I think 2 days ago, and just seeing him do all these crazy shortcuts, like we made the song in like probably 10 minutes, and it taken me an hour. So trying to fix my like productivity, I guess, and try to make things really fast.
Huh. I think you deserve a little bit more credit than like fixing your productivity. I mean, like you're trying to unlock something, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if there's anything wrong with your current
my
setup,
workflow. Yeah. It could be improved. I think I kind of learned Ableton without watching any tutorials, so I do a lot of things kind of like weird, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it'll take me like 10 steps versus like, oh, you just click this button.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten so used to it at this point where I'm just like, no, I gotta do it my way. So I'm trying to break that right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I do identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
I still do not have any skills for music production, but I started making this show not having any knowledge of recording whatsoever.
Right, yeah.
And podcast is a really good introduction to that because it's so simple. 2 voices or one voice even at the most simple layer. So there's few variables. You can kind of get going. I started from 0 and I had workflows that I fixed as well. And it took me a long time to discover how I wanted to approach things a little bit differently. There's also like, when I used to record online and now I only really record in person. So there's, I get that. I know what you're saying now.
Yeah. Definitely takes a lot of skill, and like every day I think I'm like getting better, but then, I like listen back and I'm like, oh gosh, like, so yeah, I think in January I tried doing like a beat a day, and I think I got to like 26, I think 27. So at the start of every month, I kind of put a goal for myself, like, okay, let me make like 5 things this month and, see how that goes. So yeah.
Huh. I really liked and you've played with him, Francis Nalouz, what he said about this when I did an episode with him, and he talked about how he made his kind of side account where he could experiment with making his beats. And he talked about kind of why he did that and how it helped him kind of escape from pressure that he was feeling. And I appreciated that he shared that. That was really cool.
Actually, I think we did make a beat together in January. Yeah. Because I know he's kind of in that same like beat grind as well. But yeah, I think I'm also just trying to figure out what I want to release too. Because there's so much, I feel like I've absorbed so much different kinds of music. So it's kind of hard for me to, like choose what genre I want to make. So I guess I'm trying to experiment and find my sound that potentially might blend different genres, or maybe do a beat tape that has like a bunch of different stuff. So yeah, there's a lot I could talk about with that.
Well, tell me more. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess I'll start. The first thing I'll throw at you, and then you can take it wherever you want. Is like, it sounds like you don't really feel, maybe you do though, pressure to release necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just something that's been exciting you and that you haven't gotten around to. I don't get the sense that you're like, oh, I should have released something by now, but maybe you do. Like, how do you feel about all that?
I actually feel that I shouldn't rush to release something because I still think that my sound and just like my skills with producing, or just the idea of me transferring like my ideas into sound, is underdeveloped. I know people are like, a lot of people tell me that oh, like, don't worry about it, you're overthinking it. But I think if I give myself a couple, or just even like this year, and if I like work really hard, then I could produce something I could be happy with. Because I don't want to release something and then just kind of cringe like when I listen back to it right away. So I guess I'm just waiting until I refine my skills a bit more in understanding the different elements of producing, and like even grooves too, I think is really important. So yeah, I've been trying to get like different lessons from other people. Like I was saying, I'm actually friends with a lot of beat makers online. A lot of them are kind of synonymous with this record label called Radio Juicy.
Okay, I don't know.
They're kind of associated with like Johnny Tobin's kind of beat making. Yeah. I think he has a song with them. So that's kind of like a route that I could go, because there's a certain sound that comes out of that record label where it's like electronic jazz, but it's also like beats and R&B and neo soul.
So what I would just know as Johnny Tobin music.
Exactly. Yeah. Bunch of Johnny Tobin variants. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm friends with a couple of them, and this one guy, I think I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's in Korean. It's like Yun. It's Eun. And he's been showing me stuff on Discord. And I remember this one time, he was like lecturing me about like my Ableton template. And he's like, oh, you got to do this. And we spent like 3 hours just reconstructing it, and, giving me like the right like plugins to. Yeah.
So he gave you some real attention on what you were just talking about, on like you wanted to fix
exactly.
your workflow. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And like he's been helping me. This other guy, his name is Oliver Crosby. He's this beat maker from Seattle. I actually met up with him in February, and I went to his studio, and we were making beats, and it was just really inspiring seeing his setup and his workflow, like I said, where he could just kind of make something like just super fast. And I think I have trouble with that right now, because I come up with the idea fast, but it's hard for me to put it on Ableton fast. So by the time I have it on Ableton, it's different than what I was thinking of.
This could be a hard question. You said you come up with the idea fast.
Mm-hmm.
What is the idea? What does it consist of?
Either chords, melody. Sometimes I have arrangements too. Like, I think I have too many ideas. I remember when I was studying with Bill Kuhn doing composition, he would tell me that all the time. Like, I have too many ideas, but I gotta kind of focus on one and really develop it.
He would tell you that you have too many ideas?
Mm-hmm, yeah. He's like, calm, like not. He didn't
or
say
that
calm
you're
down.
trying to juggle too many ideas.
I
at
think
once?
so. Yeah. I remember there'd be times where you're just laughing because I was like, oh, what if you do this? Oh, what if you do this? What if you do this? So, yeah.
Okay. Now, how do you get into like a Discord where you're talking to somebody like that? Is it a Discord for beat makers, some kind of community like that, or is what is the actual scenario where you end up unlocking the ability to spend 3 hours with them like that?
Honestly, just through Instagram. I just like, if I see someone that I like, I just send them a DM like, hey man, you sound good. You want to add me on Discord? Like,
okay.
And it's been like that, and everyone's super chill. And a lot of these people don't have like a massive following too, so they're pretty easy to like reach out to, and they're really willing to help. And a lot of times too, I kind of like help them with like jazz chord stuff too. I remember I was teaching Oliver Crosby about this certain chord called the mu chord, which I've been really acquainted with.
Is that the Steely Dan thing?
That's the Steely Dan thing. Yeah,
I've heard of that.
It's like a meme in my ear because that's all I talk about, just mu chords, and that's all I play, honestly. So now I was teaching him that, and he was teaching me some Ableton stuff. So we kind of trade like information, if you will.
Yeah. So it's not like you discovered like a more structured community that you joined and then you met other people within that community. It's like one-on-one. You're making connections. Yeah, exactly.
One-on-one. So hopefully if I do release something, I could have some of them featured in that EP or album. That's my plan.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, because it was like one of the other things that, if you give yourself more time, more will be there, is like who you will collaborate with if you end up, putting something out now versus then. Like, it seems like the number of people that are available to you in that is increasing a lot right now. Exactly. So you'll be thinking about that too. It's like, who can I feature? Who can I collaborate with?
Exactly.
When it's my thing.
Yeah, I actually did make a list a couple months ago. Nice. And then I checked that list again. I was like, oh man, there's so much more people I want to add now. But it's like, also, if it's like my first thing, do I want to have, this many collabs? So I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah.
My friend Carson Tworo, who plays drums with me, he'll fact check me on this number when he listens to it, but he made like 10 beat tapes with his friend David Lavoie, dating back to when they were at Cap. And now they've put out one album of their kind of jazz and beat music, and they're working on their second album right now. I mean, Carson plays drums with me here, and David plays guitar and has bands in Calgary now where he lives and stuff. But they've had that collaboration for like a decade, and they featured some other people along the way when they were just making their sample beat tapes, and now they're doing it on their album too, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's pretty much my plan, where I just keep making stuff and then release like one thing out of like the 100 that I make.
Yeah.
Now
the first thing, let's say let's picture you getting there. Let's say it's your first release day. You know, I checked my inbox this morning and I panicked because there were 20 unread emails. I was like, what's going on? They remembered, oh, it's Bandcamp Friday. That's why. But let's say it's like it's your release day and you have put out something. What do you think it is? You think it's a single track? You think you start one track at a time?
Yeah, I think that seems to be like the way to do it nowadays. Because I think Daniel Child from Star Captains was telling me that like you want to have it almost like I think he used the analogy of like a grocery store where you have different options to choose from, like in your discography, by releasing just singles first, and then you release the whole album later. So I think I might do that first, or I kind of like the idea of just like dropping it, because at the same time I don't really care about like having like streams or whatever. I kind of just want to do it for myself.
Yeah. So, yeah, you don't have the certain kind of expectations that you need to figure out how to engineer a certain outcome.
Exactly.
That helps. Yeah, because I wondered if that was something that you had thought about a lot yet or not, because you haven't had to yet. You haven't had to reckon with the kind of considerations around when you're putting something out and how you manage that process or whatever. So maybe that's something that you haven't really had to worry about at all yet, because it hasn't been something that's come up for you.
And yeah, I haven't thought about it that hard yet. And when I do, like, I have a lot of, I guess, resources, friends I could ask, be like, hey, what should I do, man? Like, what did you do? So yeah.
Let's zoom further then. Like, let's be less practical. Let's throw away like, oh, I don't think I can do that right now. Let's think of it more like something that's on your bucket list. Like, where does that take you? There's so much now, not only, can you make a career, whether it's part-time or full-time, how many different kinds of careers there are out there, sort of. So like, what's an ideal spot that you can hold in your mind and be like, oh, it would be amazing if I ended up there? Like, what kind of thing is in your vision that's like that?
I kind of joke about this with my friends, but since a lot of them kind of compliment my cooking, and they're like, hey man, you should just be like a stay-at-home dad and just make beats, and just kind of do that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that'd be
sounds
pretty
great. Good.
Yeah, that'd be great. And like I could have some sort of like online job too on the side, like and I could just gig whenever I want. So that could be a potential path I see, where I'm just at home, if I in the future, like 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
That or because I don't think I want to gig forever, right? But I guess like once I'm done like my peak gigging, I kind of want to do something chill. I even had the idea the other day, like, what if I opened like a cafe? Like, another inside joke with me and my friends where we just start a restaurant. We actually had this like crazy like gaslighting joke where we were like convincing our other friends from high school that we like opened a ghost kitchen and we made like a fake Instagram and a fake menu and everything.
Oh wow.
But else, we kind of have this joke where, if we don't know what to do in life, we're like, hey man, let's open that restaurant, let's open that cafe. So honestly, like I could even see that, and just doing music for fun, like truly for fun, like whenever I want, and not for like, because I need to pay bills or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you graduate?
So I just finished all my music classes.
Yeah.
Just this semester, and I checked my grades. I passed all my classes. So
nice.
I'm officially done all my music classes in the jazz program. I just have 4 more electives to do.
So by my definition, it's now. Right now, you have pretty much graduated by my definition, because I'm not. It doesn't matter to me so much what you have to do to get the certificate, but it's like you've gone through the CapU jazz program.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So technically, yeah. I did have my grad recital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you and now you know John, you met Jim Black when you were at high school there. Probably a lot of people who are starting to become band teachers or who want to become band teachers. Right. Do you see yourself becoming a band teacher?
I actually had a talk with Marcus about this last night, because I'm actually considering teaching elementary school music over band, just because I wasn't really a band kid in high school, even though I'd hang out in the band room. Like I didn't, like I would just go there just to play the piano pretty much. And I pretty much only took like maybe 5 semesters of concert band because I was mainly in jazz band, just wasn't in concert band. So I'm not sure if that would be my vibe to be teaching in a high school, but I do think like I wouldn't mind it, but I think I would have more fun teaching elementary school because kids are really energetic, and I think that'll keep me awake.
Nice. Yeah. And that's what I meant too. I'm not of that world, but what I meant was just you see yourself being a school teacher who may or may not teach music in general. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely in the future because I guess I have no rush to actually do it because I don't want to go to UBC right away and do the program there. So I'm giving myself at like a minimum of just like 1 or 2 years just to chill, do gigs, work on my own music and see what happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the other thing that you didn't throw out as your bucket list thing, and I would agree with you, I wouldn't throw it out either, is like, and this is what, Johnny's being one of my oldest friends, and I think of all Jazztronica music is running through him, touring all the time and being on the road all the time with lots of other people. Does that appeal to you?
Maybe not for my own music, but it'd be nice to kind of get recruited in someone's band and go on tour just for me to experience it and see if I like it.
Because you haven't done that much of that yet.
Yeah, not yet. And all the ones that were supposed to happen, all of them like got canceled. So like I'm just like I can't really. It's when people ask me like, oh, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go on tour now since you graduate? I'm like, I can't really just like apply to do that.
Yeah, like somebody has to come to you.
Yeah, exactly. So if that opportunity does come to me, then I'll gladly take it and just see what happens.
And you know how it works. It comes to you when somebody else is not available, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
it'll probably happen in the next couple of years. And yeah, when it does, I'll see if I like it or not because I can't really gauge if I will.
Yeah. Is there something that jumps out to you? I'm thinking mostly about Cap right now because high school, it's so it doesn't really work with this thing. But like your experience going through Cap, if you had like some input or a say directly in like certain parts of that program that could have been like tweaked to be a better experience for yourself or that you noticed for your friends or everybody, like what are there any kind of obvious things that like, oh, if I had a seat at the table and I could change how this worked, this would be one of the first things that I would want to address because you graduated so recently from this program. Is there anything on your mind that's like that, is something you would change if you could?
I think the hardest thing that I struggled with at CAP was kind of trying to navigate between the different teaching styles of all the teachers. So I found it most beneficial to my learning when all the learning was like super structured. I knew what was coming up. We would do something every week. Like Mary Jo's ear training class was like a perfect example of that, where I learned so much and probably was the most valuable class I've ever taken in my life.
Nice.
Or even like Bradshaw's like music theory classes were, really helpful for me. So I feel like if most classes were structured like that, I feel like I would have learned a lot more, like academically speaking. And I guess in terms of like playing wise, like in combos, I feel like sometimes like our recitals are like way too short.
Like you don't get to play enough material.
That or like you take like half a chorus each and it's like simulated jazz, where it doesn't feel
That's
really
a great point.
Authentic. So it's kind of hard to, learn jazz in an institution, I feel like, where you're much better, I guess, learning like in the real world where you're just getting thrown out there on gigs and stuff. School of life,
And because you have been for like 3 or 4 years now.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like a lot of my like playing learning has come from like outside. And then I guess all the like concepts and things like that have come from school. Like in PMI or, just in like theory and just me being like, okay, let me apply this during my next gig. Let me take this concept. It's like, Barry Harris or whatever. So yeah, maybe extending like the combo, like performances would be really nice.
Yeah. It's interesting because you, as you say, you had the opportunity to do that because your period, you said you did your first little gig with Gavin Youngash in 2020. That's 4-ish years of gigging now. Yeah. That pretty much overlaps with your CapU time.
Exactly.
So for you personally, you did have the opportunity to not just play in like a environment that feels simulated. You did have the
Yeah.
opportunity to take any given thing from a class or a private music lesson at
Mhm.
Cap and apply it out there in the real world. But it
Mhm.
seems like what you're really saying is it's very clear to you that that's not always the case. And there are a lot of people who are going through that program who don't have that first 4 years of gigging
Yeah.
running in parallel with your 4 or 5 years at Cap. And so you're like, well, if
Mhm.
you don't have what you had where you're out there with chances to implement that stuff,
Mhm.
then it's kind of unsatisfying, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's pretty hard, I guess, to learn much when you're only doing all your learning in school. So I don't know, like maybe if there's like a way to do like a co-op where, your profs take you to your gigs,
Huh.
or I don't know. I think that would be cool. Or just playing outside of school, which sounds weird, but I think that would help a lot of students.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's some very simple things that could be done that could be like that, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
And yeah.
I like that. I think that's a very, very smart point, and I definitely wanted to hear that from you because
Mhm.
it's the spring of 2024 now, and you're just kind of coming out of there, so you would have kind of fresh thoughts.
Yeah. Maybe too many thoughts.
No. It's all good. Now, there's a lot of gigs, when somebody comes on right now on this
Mhm.
show, there's two things that I usually do. I don't do both of them for every single person because I don't have to
Yeah.
sometimes, but one of them is scroll through somebody's entire Instagram feed and mentions. Mentions are very important to get more information there too.
Oh, no,
Didn't
yeah.
have to do that with yourself.
Mhm.
That's maybe if I've never met somebody before or if I've never seen. But the other thing that I could do now that's really handy is I can open my Gig List 2024 archive, Gig List 2023, and see like where you've played
Oh,
over the last little while.
you know what? I should have sent you my own gig list because I have my own. I've archived every single gig I've ever done.
Oh wow.
Man. But yeah, it's been a lot.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot that would not have been part of what I capture for sure. I mean, something that I only discovered recently
Mhm.
is there's this place that I've never been to called the Flamingo Room,
Right. Yeah.
where you are playing now a few times I've seen over the last couple months, right?
Yeah. I play in Brendan, what's his last Buglioni, his trio. So it's him on drums, Zach Wong on bass, and me on keys. So
Is that electric bass? Is it like an electric
yeah,
trio?
it's like an electric trio. And we play there about like once a month.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like it's almost like same vibes as like Guilt and Co, where people come there to like, like drink and, watch live music. And it's really nice inside, and there's like a really small stage. So yeah, we play for like, I think each gig is like 3 hours long, so 3 sets.
3 sets. What do you play?
Play a lot of different things, mainly like jazz fusion stuff, some like Clasper stuff, Herbie Hancock, what else? Yeah, we play standards as well. Funk, like, like the Chicken, or yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm like blanking out right now because it's like, oh my gosh.
That's a good picture of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the leader of that trio? Is there one?
Brendan.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's his band.
Yeah.
And then me and Zach are just there for the ride. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go check out that place. There's venues piling up that I haven't been to now that are starting to do things, and that's definitely one of them where I saw your name recently. Now, you've played in like every project by Michelle Escudero. You played in the Kaleidoscope Band, which is the biggest, I'm pretty sure, and you've played in like quartet, trio, duo even format with Michelle. So that's another big kind of collaboration that you've had through your Cap years.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's great too because Michelle and I are really good friends as well. So, it doesn't feel like work per se. I'm just like, oh, I'm hanging out with Michelle, and we're just playing tunes and we're just having fun. So, yeah, every time we do a gig, it's super fun because, we're just hanging out because we're, low stakes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no pressure
Exactly.
is what you're looking for. Now, you've also played in several other bands that I wanted to ask you about. One of this, I apologize in advance because it would be better to have done episodes with other people who are the leaders of these bands to really learn more about this. But this is my first crack at it.
Okay.
This is an area that is one of my kind of broader projects, I guess, is to learn more about this area because I think this is one of the most exciting things that's been happening in this community over the last year. And it's things like Piotr's Game Lobby, the Cowboy Bebop Band. You've played in both of those. I haven't had my chance to do full episodes with those guys.
Right.
So this is my first dip of my toes into what I think is one of the most fascinating subjects, is this area of doing video game music and anime music and explicitly kind of promoting it as such and working that for all it's worth and having as much fun with that as possible. It is one of the most popular sub niches in our community right now. And I think that's amazing. So let's dive into that area. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Well, so I guess a lot of these band leaders all kind of come from the UBC Jazz Club. So Steven Zhu, Piotr, and yeah, like it's just they just wanted to play the music from the games or shows they like, and it's pretty nice because Rick's son is out of town, so they've been kind of calling me. So I'm really fortunate because Rick is maybe too good. So yeah, we did a Persona, Persona 5, like I think it's a game. Yeah, so we did the music of Persona at Tyrant. I believe that was last year, sometime in the fall. And that was with Michelle, Piotr. There's a couple people I'm blanking out. Martin. Like a lot of these people are from like the UBC Jazz Club, and a lot of them are super great. I'm genuinely impressed by like the amount of skill they have for not being like going to jazz school or anything. It's like, oh wow, like these guys could really play, So yeah, it's always fun music too, and Tyrant is always sold out whenever we do those gigs.
It's so great.
So yeah, there's that, and then there's Piotr's Pokemon like game lobby thing we did, I believe, earlier this year, and that was super fun too. And that was with Seth, Piotr, and RJ, Tristan. I'm blanking on all their last names, but yeah, it's fun too because they're like really arranged. So there is like kind of a level of like, oh, I do have to like really shed these. But once I get them, it's like really fun because, they're also like low stakes because it's more about just kind of celebrating the music. And then there was that big Cowboy Bebop Band by Steven Zhu, and that was at Tyrant. And that gig was insane because there's so many people at Tyrant. Like I could like barely walk anywhere. And yeah, it was super fun, and everyone took like really great solos. And I remember too, like when I thought we were finished, everyone was screaming like an encore. So we played Strasbourg for like another like 10 minutes. And we went like super late. So yeah, like some really memorable times at Tyrant in particular.
Huh. Yeah, I was just looking up which ones you've been on because now of course it makes sense that Rick is like the original piano player.
Yeah.
Yeah, who did maybe the first kind of gigs with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been nice that I guess Piotr in particular has been like, I guess like giving me the chance. Like we're really good friends too. So like there's this joke that in our like Cowboy Bebop group chat, everyone was like making a jokes because I can't play the next one because I'm gonna be out of town. So Rick is playing it, and then everyone's saying, "Oh, Justin, you're cooked. Like Rick is coming for your gig," and I'm like, "No, please, I'm just joking." Like
So I looked it up because I wanted to try and find the first time that you did one of those kind of game lobby style gigs, and what would it have been like the fall of last year? So like 6 to 8 months ago. Is that the first time that you would have jumped in on one of those? At Tyrant.
Yeah, Tyrant.
Yeah. Because there's a Piotr's Game Lobby that happened in September 2023. That was one that I found that might have been. And then we also were doing Star Captains gigs at that time too. So that was one of the first gigs that I pulled out like, oh, I want to ask you about, because I knew I wanted to talk about the game lobby style and the UBC people gigs with you. So you did one back then. You've done ones more recently. You mentioned the one coming up. That's like the big one that's happening on a weeknight at Heroes Welcome, like this month.
Yeah. And that's the one that I'm not playing. Yeah. But yeah.
What do you think juiced this whole sub scene? Like, why did it become so popular? I think it's amazing. And like I said, I want to talk to them and explore this in more detail. But you've been there. You've been on the stage. You've probably been on the other side. Like, you've probably attended some of them too, even. Like, what is the magic of these things? What do you think is juicing this as like one of the most popular sub scenes?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to just Tyrant Studios and how chill Daniel is, because
Yeah.
if someone has a project and they approach him, then he'll be like, yeah, sure, you could play. So I think just having a venue for all these like passion projects is like a really good start. So yeah, there's that. And I guess like, I don't know, like I know Piotr like is like a pretty he uses this word a lot, but he's a gamer. So he obviously had passion for these games and wanted to put it out there. And I feel like maybe Steven Zhu had like a similar idea with Cowboy Bebop, and yeah, I'll probably do something similar to this in a couple of years. So yeah, like I guess it's just like everyone's probably had this idea for a while, but then since Piotr was the first guy to do it, probably everyone else is kind of catching the wave, because it does sell out like a lot, and people do come to these gigs, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's because this is music that they're familiar with, and this is like the only place. It's something that's new and unique in that sense. Like you're not going to hear that on any of the 200 other gigs or whatever that are happening, and even in this community in any given month, right? So it's like it's one of the only places the open-mindedness of Tyrant has created one of the only places where you could go and enjoy hearing people play this music, right? It's like one of the only places.
Exactly. And I do think also it's kind of like a gateway for people, for the public to like get into jazz, because like you'll like if someone sees, for example, Isabel Leong's Ghibli band,
right?
And like they don't know anything about jazz, but they know they've watched all the movies, and they'll come to the gig, and they get to experience and listen to jazz probably for the first time. So I think that's a really cool thing too. That's like introducing people to like jazz.
Yeah. That works because the people who are playing the game lobby shows also play jazz, and so you can literally follow those people around to the rest of their interests, but also because of something within the music itself, right? Because the musical arrangements resemble certain styles of jazz, right? There's a few different layers of why that works. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's something that I want to learn about more. So thank you for helping me kick it off. I'm going to be pursuing this as like a bigger theme that I've noticed has emerged. And the Ghibli band fits into that as well. I totally did. I'm very familiar. I've seen it multiple times, but I didn't think about that.
Right.
I was just thinking about Piotr's stuff and Steven's stuff.
Yeah. And there's actually another Ghibli band where it's Saul Alvear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sakamoto and Hisaishi. Yeah, you play in that.
I play in that. Yeah. So there's two Ghibli bands, which is great. More Ghibli.
Yeah. Is that going to happen again? That happened 2 or 3 times last year in total.
I believe so. I think next Saturday we're recording some songs.
Oh.
And then, we're going to see what happens there. So I think there's still like plans in the works.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're getting into bonus time. Any other bands that you ended up playing with, random gigs that I jotted down. You showed me some too, which thank you, that weren't necessarily on my radar. So when you play a solo piano gig, what do you play?
Oh man. A lot of times it's an opportunity for me to actually practice like jazz standards, so like ballads, just stuff from the real book or American Songbook. I actually I'm not that great at stride, so I'm like kind of the worst person.
It's hard.
It is hard, and I think it's not necessarily my thing. So I've been really trying to focus a lot on my touch on the piano, especially playing at these like corporate events, playing on these really like expensive pianos. Because that was one thing that Brad Turner pointed out to me, like, oh, I should work on my touch. And I think this was in second year, and I was like, wait, like I haven't even considered that at all. So then I just been spending the past couple of years just trying to really develop it. And I guess developing my ideas and taking risks, calculated risks when I play. And that's something I picked up when John Lee did a workshop at Cap, where he was like, oh, you should take calculated risks. And that kind of will help you with your vocab and playing.
What does that mean? Tell me more about that.
Like, I guess from my understanding, where it's if I have an idea in my head and I shouldn't rely on just kind of like the things I know.
Oh, like you have an idea and you don't know if you can execute it like in your hands.
Yeah. And
okay.
And calculate the risk of me actually doing it. And if I probably can do it, then I should do it.
Yeah.
And, low stakes for a lot of these solo piano things at like restaurants. So yeah, I feel like that's been really helping me with my playing because I do a lot of my practicing there since they're like 4 hours at a time sometimes.
Wow.
So a lot of times I'll just, go crazy with actually trying to make it very musical instead of just like practicing like nonsense or practicing like the same licks, over and over. I try to have a mindset where I go in every gig and kind of, take advantage of the opportunity and just try to, see, like test myself, try to expand my vocab and whatnot, try out stuff.
Yeah. Now you also showed me, which I wasn't aware of, that you've subbed or joined, like you did with the Star Captains family. You've played with Potatohead People.
Right. Yeah. So, I think that started in like 2022 for the Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I actually used to listen to them in high school.
Nice.
And I had no idea they're in Vancouver. Same with same with Johnny Tobin. Like I didn't know
really?
that he was in Vancouver.
That's great. He'll love to hear that.
Yeah. I think when all this happened, I was losing my mind. I was like, wait, these guys are from he knows that. Wait. All these people are connected. So I was playing for this different artist. She goes by The Delicate.
Yeah.
And she was also playing for the Jazz Fest. And Nate Drobner on bass was her MD. And he kind of just asked me one day, hey, you want to play my band? And I was like, sure, what's your band called? And he's like, Potatohead People. And I was like thinking about that. I was like, why does that sound so familiar? And then I checked my Spotify playlist. I was like, wait, is this your song? He's like, yeah. I'm like, whoa. So that was kind of a super mind-blowing at the time. And yeah, like I played decent amount of their gigs. I think, yeah. I mainly do a lot of the synth parts. So I think Johnny Tobin's like super busy normally to like play with them. So it's been mainly me and Ben Millman kind of taking over the keyboard parts. So yeah, learning their tunes was like a challenge at first because it was like I didn't really like, I guess, think about the harmony a lot. But when I started learning it, like through like Nate just sending me like, messages, I hear the chords and all these like crazy slash chords and him thinking of harmony a certain way. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And then that's where I learned about the mu chord.
Oh,
and then
okay.
I was like what? Because he just sent it. He sent like A flat mu to me. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what's a mu? And then you have to break it down. And then I, started listening to Steely Dan, and then all like AOR, and then listening to this chord. And so yeah, I learned a lot through playing with that band. And everyone in that band are just like really high caliber, highly skilled musicians, like Tristan Paxton guitar, and like Kai Basanta on drums. So like all these people are like are like super good. So I think I'm really fortunate to be playing with them because I get to learn every time I do a gig.
No, my guy Thad Bailey Mai has played a lot with them too. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, just hearing Thad was like, oh my gosh, every time it's so great.
Yeah. I pulled this. This is a one-off random one I pulled. There was a gig last year called Now What? Whose band was that? Is that RJ Avella? Was that his band? Or whose band was that nominally?
It's like
you played in that.
I'm technically band leading that.
That's you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I asked.
But I like to think of the band like a brotherhood, just me hanging out with my friends. And a lot of us happen to be Filipino, so we have this inside joke that we're like all cousins. I mean, we basically are at this point. Like Raf's my cousin.
Yeah.
If anyone says otherwise, no, we're cousins. Just pointing that out. So yeah, I always want to start like a jazz fusion kind of, like Glasper-ish, like pocket groove, neo soul, all that kind of stuff. I always want to start a band like that. And then I always admired Julian Ferrer's drumming and Raf's playing. So I knew I wanted to do something with them. And then I played in this grad recital, I think in second year. King, I forgot his last name. He's a bassist that graduated from Cap. And Patrick and RJ were in that band. And then after I heard them play, I was like, wow, like these guys are, insane. So I recruited them. So yeah, it's mainly, we kind of got a thing going. Also Miles Wong kind of plays in the band too. So, I have plans this summer for us to kind of just get together and just play music. No gigs right now because I really want us to develop our sound and just kind of get acquainted and just hang out more and, just play good music and listen to music and get that first before we actually play more gigs.
Yeah.
So,
Because
yeah.
I'm not speaking officially for Coastal Jazz, but you could get a Jazz Fest gig tomorrow with that project if you applied. That's all it would take.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm well aware. So maybe plans for next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Staying tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to do is I want to go back to cooking because I didn't quite hit it, and because I thought about it. I thought about how you talked about the pickup jazz thing and that kind of thing, and I thought about all these like cooking Instagram reels and stuff that I've seen, or and it doesn't. Maybe it wasn't that. It probably wasn't that, but that just got me thinking of like we didn't talk about how you got into cooking or like how that became a part of something that you enjoy and an outlet that you have. We just kind of talked about that it was a thing, but do you have like a how you got into cooking story?
I actually do. So I grew up just like watching the Food Network a lot. Like actually used to like binge it quite a lot when I was younger. So I always picked up on like the techniques and all the ideas and all like some of the terminology that, these like Food Network chefs would use. And I remember in grade 11, we had a band trip to Banff. And I think I used that as an opportunity to cook for all my, the people that I was staying with in our like little condo or whatever. So I remember making like kimchi fried rice for like, and that was like one of like the first times where I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna like make this, but like not follow a recipe or, just do it just for the sake of doing it.
Improvise.
Yeah, improvising it, exactly. And turned out great. And then we later like threw a feast for Mr. Sykes. And then he was pretty happy about that and pretty stoked. And then ever since then, I just continued to cook like a lot. And then the pandemic happened, right? And, I honed in my skills, got like a nicer knife. And then, like I'm just slowly trying to meal prep and I guess trying to cook things more instead of like buying food all the time. Since I'm in Vancouver, it's like I'm not trying to spend $15 every day on like lunch. So just cooking good food, like mainly like Filipino, Asian food. And like just something that I really enjoy doing and I find really relaxing too. Especially like the prepping part, which is weird. Not the actual cooking, but like just cutting vegetables. When listening to like a podcast or listening to music and just cutting vegetables is great.
That's really important, I think. It's like enjoying practicing, right? It's like you got to enjoy that to be able to unlock a lot of the enjoyment of the rest of the thing, right? That kind of, there's like a fundamental layer. Because if you didn't enjoy that, it would probably really put a damper on your enjoyment of the overall thing.
Exactly. So I'm glad I enjoy like the prep part. Like, because I know a lot of people hate that part. And that's what stops a lot of people from cooking. But I enjoy, like, it's super satisfying just like cutting green onions and being like, like saying all of it. And like even the noise it makes, it's like ASMR. So
it sounds like it's something that if you don't enjoy it right now, it is possible that you could come to enjoy something like that you think you won't if you find the right conditions, right? You're not doomed to like hate it forever, I don't think, like for any given thing. It's possible.
Yeah. And a lot of my friends actually, like my like hometown friends of like, I think in high school, we started almost like a cooking club thing where you just go to my friend's house and we'd all cook through like, I guess my supervision because, and then we would watch a movie and we continue to do that like every couple months.
Oh, like your friends from Guildford?
Yeah.
So, that's sweet.
I think last time we made like carbonara or something. We just watched like, I think we watched like Avatar, like the Netflix adaptation. So good vibes.
It's very good vibes. Man, this was so much fun. I feel like I got to know you so much better. And now I know how often you're out there playing all different kinds of things. So I look forward to the next time I hear you playing out there in the world. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you again. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rhythm Changes podcast. If you enjoyed it, become a member for free today at rhythmchanges.ca. You'll get the free weekly email, which features artists, events, or recordings from our scene, plus the week's upcoming events from the gig list. Rhythm Changes is a Chernoff music production. This episode was hosted and produced by me, edited and mixed by Justin Gorey, and I will catch you next time on a future episode of this show. Bye-bye.